All right, the next step in our process is to complete the front matter. So in our checklist, we say cut and paste the title, subtitle, author name from the manuscript. If not provided, type manually. Be sure to double check for mistakes if you do have to type it manually. Then cut and paste copyright information, and then cut and paste any front matter. All right, so this is where I do this. I will cut this. This is our title, and then I will place it. But instead of just pasting it, I will paste without formatting. And that way, because we already have our paragraph style assigned to this, if I pasted it with formatting, it's going to change my style, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to paste without formatting, so it actually places the title as the book title. All right, and so now that we did that, you will notice that it comes in here, as well as our page headers that we don't see just yet. Now, if an author types in all uppercase, I prefer to convert it and then set uppercase to the style if needed. So here we are just going to do a change case to title case. And then when I get into styling this document, if I decide to do it in uppercase, I will. All right, now this document, the subtitle is going to be this series title. So we're going to paste that here. Again, paste without formatting, which is Control-Shift-V. That will be a very good shortcut key to remember. Then we're going to type in the cut and paste the author's name. Now, you notice she had a byline here. So we are going to add that in. What I'm going to do, and you'll notice the italics went away, okay? Now, when we paste without formatting, any character styles that are assigned, they're gonna go away. So I'm gonna actually add that back in. But right now, you'll notice that my author name went on the next page. And this line is assigned the author title page as well. And I really don't want that. This is actually an author byline. So I'm going to create a new style. So to do that, I'm going to go right here to this 3-line drop cap. I'm on paragraph styles, which you can get to under window, styles, paragraph styles, or you can use the shortcut code F11. But my paragraph styles are always on my workspace because I use them religiously. So it's always going to be here. Now, with paragraph styles, you also have an additional menu, which is right here. This little 3-line menu. I'm going to click that. I'm going to say new paragraph style. Now, if you are already on a line of text that already has a paragraph style applied to it, when you create a new paragraph style, the menu is going to come up and it's going to base your new style on whatever line you are on now. So we are on the author line. And so our new style is going to be based on the author line. So all the settings here are based on the author line. So we're going to call this author byline. And we are going to, first off, change the way it looks. We're going to make it much smaller. So we'll set it to 14 point for now. And we want the space before to be about 1.5. And I think that'll be good for now. Then we're going to click on OK. Now, had I been in the italics section, this whole line would be italics. But because I had my cursor on the part that wasn't set italics, it didn't set it in italics, and it kept USA Today as the character style. So we're going to click on OK. Now, I don't want this much space between the author name and the byline, so we're going to modify the author line. Now, to modify a paragraph style, there's a couple of ways we can do it. We can go over to the paragraph style and we can edit author, or we can just make the changes on our control panel up here. So the A is all the different character options we can change, and then the P is all the different paragraph options we can change. Well, space above is a paragraph option, and you'll see our space above is set to 2.5. I don't want any space above because I want this to come up right below this line. So we're just going to hit enter. That's going to bring that up. And you will notice this little teal line right here. That means that there's some sort of override in here. Well, we don't want to clear it because that's going to drop it back down. What an override means is that there's something on this line that is not set to the main paragraph style. All right, and we know that because author has this 2.5 space above, but we just took it off. So I want the new author style to be just like this. So what we can do is come to our 3-line drop cap and we can say redefine style, which is Control-Alt-Shift-R. So now that teal line goes away and our style for author no longer has that large space above. Okay, so next is we are going to look at her copyright. And I typically like copyrights to be a certain way, and the book title should always be first, followed by the subtitle, followed by the copyright line and who the copyright is owned to. And then we will drop her text in, and I am just going to do a Control-Alt-V, which is paste without formatting, and we already have this, and I am going to move this genre, and when the author comes back she may tell me to set it the way she had it, and which is fine. I just traditionally set them up this way. And then she also has this attached to the copyright, so I'm just going to add that. And then she has this all rights reserved, so I'm going to copy that and paste it over my placeholder for all rights reserved. I'm going to do the Control-Shift-V, which pastes it without formatting. And then we are going to copy these, and I'm just going to go over these sections right here. And I'm going to assign copyright just to give that separation, and then we'll keep all of this together. Okay, so we are good on the copyright, and then I can delete the rest of this stuff. And here is all our front matter, and I want all of this to go before our contents. Now, one thing I like to do to the contents is I just like to leave myself a message for ebook only, delete for final print interior. I just leave that message there just in case I forget to remove it when I send the first draft to the client, and that way they know that page will not be there for the print book. All right, so now I have cut all of the front matter from my main document here, and I'm actually going to paste it in here. So to do that, we go to the very end of the copyright page, and we're going to insert a page break. And you can do this a couple of ways. You can go to Type, Insert Break Character, and Insert Page Break here, or I like to use my Enter key on my number pad, and I hit Enter. And it looks like it didn't add a page break, but it really did. We just have to paste the contents for it to show up. So all that front matter stuff that I cut from the main document is now in this text flow. So we will see our threaded text frames from the copyright to go to this page. So now the next thing I do is, let's go back to our checklist. And I probably may not have said style, but at this point, I go ahead and style, yes, style and set master pages as needed. So what we're going to do now is we're going to style the front matter and set the master pages as needed. So to do that, we know forward is going to be an other title. So we are going to select other title. And had this been set with some sort of character style, it may have been bold or something like that. Sometimes if there is a character style set and I know I don't want a character style set on this particular style, I will right click and say apply other titles, clear character style. All right, so now all of this right here is in teal and it's set. It's not set to any special character style. It actually is set to normal, which is what in Word sets all the type in a document. It always sets it to normal unless the user actually used character styles. So this is one thing that we can do to make typesetting our document pretty easy. And we don't have to necessarily map the styles at the beginning. This is where we can map them now. The majority of our text in our document is going to be set to chapter text, okay? So what we can do is we can actually delete this normal paragraph style and change it to chapter text. Okay, so everywhere in our document, if we scroll through, pretty much everything is set to normal or this list paragraph. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to actually delete both of those. So we're going to delete normal. So what you do is on your paragraph styles, right click on normal and delete. Don't do anything just yet. Don't hit OK, because what we want to do is we want to map anything that is set to normal. We want to map it to chapter text. So it will change it from being set to a paragraph normal style to the paragraph chapter text style. So to do that, just follow directions. Delete style normal and replace with chapter text. Okay, now, it doesn't look like it did anything, but that's okay. Give it a minute. All right, now you can see a difference. All right, but now you'll see it's still set to teal. And if we come over here to paragraph styles, you'll see a plus sign next to chapter text. That just means that there's something here that the text isn't adhering to the definition of the style. So what we can do is we can actually select everything in this text frame and we can say clear overrides. And that will get rid of them all. Now, we're going to have to go through and style all this stuff, and that's okay. We will do that. And another thing I like to do again is if they used all caps, I like to just convert it to title case, and then I will, if I want this in all caps, I will set it to all caps in the character style. All right, so we know at this point what I like to do is I like to also open up her original document. So let's open up her original document. And I just like to see how she may have laid things out. So she left aligned her name here. So we are going to do that. So XO, love Colleen. All right, so we are going to assign this XO. She had it left aligned to this outside edge. So that is going to be, and she had a space above. So that is going to be our first para space above. And then love Colleen will just be assigned to first para. All right, so our dedication is next. Our dedication, we're actually going to change it to a title case, and we are going to assign other titles. All right, and you will notice that the dedication automatically went to the next page. And that is because in our other titles style, we have that paragraph start on the next odd page. So no matter what, anything that you assign other titles to is automatically going to start on the next odd page unless you change the setting in the style. All right, so now this is their dedication. So we're going to click on dedication, but that changed the whole paragraph to italics. That's because normally that's the way dedications are. But for this one, I'm just going to assign this the first para. All right, then we have a new page. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to convert to title case. We're going to set this as other titles. It takes it to the next page, and we're just going to set this as first para. And I'm going to look at her document real quick because she has some text in bold and some that are not, and I just want to make sure that's intentional. So she says the ones bolded absolutely wreck her and speak the loudest of the complicated emotions. Okay, so we know we definitely want to keep the bold. So we will make sure. All right, so for these, you can determine how you want these, and you may want to center them or you may want to left align them. I prefer to have things left aligned unless there are 4 or less. If there were 4 or less songs, I'd probably center them, but because there's this long list, I'm going to just put a space above this one to separate it, and we'll have it that way. All right, so the next thing is, I believe, her blurb. So what we're going to do is we're just going to assign this Truth Pact as our other titles. Whoops, wrong thing. I'm going to say other titles, and that's going to push to the next page. And then I'm just going to center this, and then I'm going to assign this first para space above, and this is going to be first para. And I'm going to look at her document again just to see how she did it. Yeah, she did this the same. And I am going to keep all of these set to chapter text. All right, now the next is this, this quote. So I'm actually going to assign that as centered, but we want that on its a page by itself. So what we can do is we just can come to the end of this one page where we know we want a page break, and we can insert that page break. It'll drop it to the next page. And I want this to be on a left-hand page, so we can actually hit enter again, and it will bring up, it will come to the next page. But we're going to have blank lines here, so sometimes that is not the best thing to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new chapter style. This is actually should all be set to centered. So I'm going to create a new chapter, a new paragraph style. And just say new paragraph style, centered 1. All right, now I add 1 on anything that's going to be at the top of a page. So I know I can set that as a page break. So we can come down here to keep options. We're going to tell it to be on next odd page. And then we're going to go to export tagging and say split document for EPUB only, just so I don't forget to do that. And I'm going to add my little note that says split for ebook. And we'll get into the reason why I do that later when we start working on the ebook. So now that I assigned that, it actually moved to a right-hand page, and that's where we want it. All right, so now that we have all of this front matter stuff styled, what we need to do is we need to set master pages. So we are going to assign this page, if we want it to start lower on a page. And traditionally, front matter does have page numbers. So we are going to drop our E title no ornament, because if we add any chapter decoration on our chapter pages, we do not want the ornaments, the decorations on the front matter pages. So we are going to assign this E title no ornament to this page right here. And so there's a couple of ways we can do this. We can come up here to this D page, the E page, this right-hand page, and we can drag and drop it here, and it will assign that, and you'll now see that says E here, and it drops it lower down. It adds our page number here. Or another way that we can do that is we can double click on the page, highlighting it in blue. We can right click, apply master to pages, and we can say assign the E title no ornament. It doesn't really matter how you do it. It's whatever is most comfortable for you. Then the next page, this will get assigned our A header page. So the A header will come up to the top and the page numbers will be down at the bottom centered. The dedication page will get a E, drops down, page number. Now, if you only have like maybe a dedication page in your front matter and that's it, there's no need to number it. But because we have several pages in our front matter, I go ahead and number them. All right, so here again, this is going to be an E. And you will see that this goes over onto the next page. But I may decide to I'm going to do my best, and when I set the style, set the actual fonts and everything to this, I'm going to try to keep all of this together. So I am not really going to assign the A master page to this just yet, because I'm hoping that I can get these 3 lines on this page as well. And then here, the same thing, we are going to assign the E master page. And then this is going to be the E master page again. And then we have our table of contents, and then we go into the prologue. Now, traditionally, prologues are still numbered with the lowercase Roman numerals. Your book should not start page 1 until part 1 or chapter 1. So what that means in our document here is that prologue currently is page 1. So we are actually going to remove this, and we're going to tell it to continue numbering from the previous section. So we are going to do that, what you do is double click on that page. So we're double clicked on page 1. We're going to right click, number section options, and we're going to remove that start section. Pay attention when I click on OK down here to the page number. You will see it continues the page numbering from the previous section. All right, so here, what we're going to do is we are going to change the case to title case. I am going to set my prologue as a chapter number. I'm going to set the character name as a chapter title. And then this first paragraph, I'm going to set as first pair drop cap. And then the other ones, they are set to list paragraph. So I need to delete the style for list paragraph, and I am going to assign it as chapter text. All right, and now we can just select these and clear the overrides before we get to chapter 1. Okay, so now you will see that this page is already assigned the B chapter title, and that's fine. That is exactly what we want, but the next pages are also assigned the B chapter title, and we don't want those. All of these need to be set to the A master page. So to set all of these, we are going to select this page right here on our Pages panel, and we're going to scroll all the way down to the end of the document, hold our Shift key down, then click, which selects all of those. And we are going to, whoops, hold on. Okay, so to select the master page A header to all of the pages, and I prefer to go ahead and set every single page of the document to A header except page 1 of the main text flow, because most of the pages are going to be set to the A chapter text, A header master page. So I go ahead and set them. And then after we have set styles, we will be able to assign the other master pages. So what I do, let me do this slowly. You'll have to slap me sometimes because sometimes it's all instinctual to me because I've been doing this so long. So sometimes I forget to tell you exactly how to do it. So I will try to remember. And that's the benefit of joining the Facebook group, is that you can ask me those questions if you ever need to know the answer. So the proper way would be to go to your Pages panel. And again, if you don't have your Pages panel over here, you just go to Window, and it is Pages, or you can use the shortcut F12. So double click on the first page that you want to change the master page, then scroll all the way down to the end, hold the Shift key down, and click on the last page. Then we're going to right click, apply master to pages, and then we're going to click on the A header page, and then we're going to click on OK. So what InDesign is going to go ahead, you'll notice our page number is going to shift. Right now we have 301 pages, but because we are changing the master page for all of these, they're set higher on the page, so our page count should go down. And we look, it is 205 pages, so yes, it goes down. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the prologue. And we're going to find where chapter 1 begins. And we are going to assign chapter 1 as, you guessed it, headings, chapter number. Okay, and you will notice that it is no longer on this page. It actually went to the next page. And it has an override, so we are going to clear that override. All right, so now for chapter 1, we want it to be on a right-hand page. Even though we have a prologue, chapter 1 still needs to begin on a right-hand page. Whereas chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, it doesn't matter whether it's left or right. But chapter 1 is always page 1 and always begins on a right-hand page. Now, if there is a part title page, that would be page 1, and chapter 1 would probably be page 3. But since this book doesn't have any part titles, we know that chapter 1 will be set to page 1. Now, you could tell this in the style to do an override here. Now, something important to know about overrides is that some overrides are okay, but we try to limit the number of overrides that we do. So we could set an override here by going up to our 3-line drop cap thing, 3-line drop menu here, and go to keep options and tell it to begin this line on next odd page. But for situations like this, what I typically do is I delete this text frame, and then it forces it on to the next page. And then what we're going to do is we are going to double click on this page right here. We're going to drag and drop our C master page, so this page is now blank. If a page has no text on it whatsoever, we do not want page headers and page numbers on that text. Blank pages should be completely blank. Okay, so now we have chapter 1 on our right-hand page, and we want to drag and drop our B chapter title to this page so it drops lower on a page. Now, remember, I said chapter 1 should always be page 1. So we are going to set our chapter 1 as page 1 by double-clicking on that page in the Pages panel, right-clicking, going to Numbering and Section options. We want to start section. We want the page to start page numbering at 1, and we want the style to be regular numbers. And then click on OK. So now you will notice that all of this front matter section, in the Pages panel, you'll see it says FM, which stands for front matter, and this is page 1, which is the title page, and then it ends numbering on this page of the prologue. And that is correct. Your numbering should always begin on the title page. Now, in some situations, if there isn't a lot of front matter, like maybe only a dedication, and then there's the prologue, in those situations, I may decide to just number the prologue with page 1. But since we have a lot of front matter in this book, I will do the traditional numbering method where the title page is page 1 and it's consecutive all the way through the end of the prologue, and then page 1 begins with chapter 1. All right, so now that we have our front matter set up, let's move on to our checklist and see what it says. All right, so the next part of the checklist says, if back matter provided separately, go to the end of the document and paste it. Or if it was provided in the manuscript, you can copy and you can cut it from the regular manuscript and place it in the back matter frame. Now, this is something that you don't have to do if you're okay with having your back matter flow, but I like to have the back matter separate. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go into our main text frame. I'm going to hit Control End, which is going to take me all the way to the end, and I am going to cut this back matter, which begins with the afterword here. So I'm going to cut it, and that should be the last chapter. I'm just double checking. Yeah, I'm going to keep that. Yeah, so this is the last chapter of the book, and then she has a sneak peek of the next book, which I'm going to keep with that, with the main text, and then I'm going to paste all the back matter in this other text frame. So what that did is our main text frame ends here, and then our back matter text frame starts here. Okay, this is just the way I like to do things, but you can have it continue on here. It's not a big deal. All right, so I'm going to go back to the beginning of the document, and I just used Control Home, and that took me back to the very beginning of that text frame. So now that we have the back matter set up, let's go back to our checklist and see what is next. All right, it says set styles in main text area as needed. Okay, so at this point, what I like to do is I like to begin styling everything. So we know that Ryan, he's going to be a chapter title. And I'm going to show you in just a minute some quick methods to do a lot of this. And we are going to set the first paragraph as first para drop cap. Now, if you don't want drop cap, that's okay. I would still assign this first paragraph of the chapter, this first para drop cap. And that way, if you don't want any drop caps, you can actually remove it here. And then if you decide to add it in later, if you had assigned this first para, you would have to go in and reassign this to a first para drop cap. But by assigning it this, you'll always know that the first paragraph in your document will be however you want the first paragraph styled, whether you want it drop cap or not, because we can easily remove the drop cap from this style. All right, now, since I got to know the Word document, and I know I marked that one little section where we wanted to set it in a block quote, and I know her chapter texts, her text messages were set with a colon, I can get rid of all these clear overrides. These are just distracting. We don't need them. So what we can do is we can clear them all in one swoop. All right, there's a couple of ways we can do it. We can go to the beginning, hold our shift key down, hold our control key down and our end key down, and that will select all the text in the text frame. And then we can do a clear overrides, and that will clear everything in that area. All right, so now all those overrides go away. Now, something to note, we did not clear the overrides in the back matter, and that's only because this back matter is no longer in the text frame, so my little shortcut only selected everything in the text frame. All right, and since this is a separate text frame, we will clear these overrides later. Okay, all right, so now that all of those are cleared, now there's another way you can do it too. You can actually just do a find and replace. You can do, and this will work for the entire document, so it's going to clear these as well. You can do a Control F, find format, Leave character style alone. Don't touch that at all. We want to find the chapter text paragraph style, and we want to change it to chapter text, but leave character style alone, because if we mess with that, we may remove our italics, and we don't want to do that. So essentially what we're doing is replacing chapter text with chapter text. Change all, and you will notice that even the back matter, the overrides go away. So that's how you can get rid of overrides in one quick change. Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and style our chapter or set our chapter numbers and our chapter titles. Now, in this particular document, we can do a search for chapter, and I'm going to show you this you could go through the document and say, hey, this is a chapter number, and this is chapter title. But the thing is this is the same throughout the document. We have chapter followed by whatever chapter number it is, followed by a paragraph mark. And then for the chapter titles, it's either going to be Ryan, followed by a paragraph mark, and then Olivia, followed by a paragraph mark. So because this is a pattern, we can easily replace everything in the document in one search. So we're going to go to our Find Change menu, which is Control F, but instead of text, we are going to click on Grep. Grep is regular expressions, so we can use code in here to find patterns of text. So we know we want to find chapter, followed by a space, and then there's going to be a certain amount of characters after. So what we're going to do is use our wildcards. So in this little drop-down menu, go to wildcards. It's really going to be any letter since she spelled out her chapter titles. And we need to repeat that letter one or more times. And then we need to end it with a paragraph mark. So if we find this, we want it changed to what it finds, because we don't want to change anything about it. We just want to assign a new a new paragraph style. So we're going to say keep what you find, but I want you to assign no character style to it, and I want you to assign the chapter number paragraph style. So now we're going to do a change all. It found 22 areas in our document. And now if we scroll through, you will notice that chapter 3 is already set to our chapter number, chapter 4 is already set, chapter 5, and if we scroll through the end of the document, all of those will be set as well. So that's a good little time-saving method. Now, the same thing applies to this. We know that some of the chapters are going to say Ryan, followed by an end of paragraph mark. Now, if we just search for Ryan without that end of the paragraph mark, it's going to replace everything where it says Ryan. It's going to set that paragraph to this style. So that end of paragraph mark is what the key is. We need to include that. So we want to change it to what it finds, but this time, instead of chapter number, we want to replace it with chapter title. It's going to go through our entire document and replaced it 14 times. And then the same with Olivia. We're going to change all, and it found it 20 times. So now chapter 1, Ryan, chapter 2, Olivia, chapter 3, Ryan, all these are styled with just a quick find and replace. All right, the next thing that will be easy to do is scene breaks. So we know that our author set her scene breaks with asterisks, and for now we're going to keep them asterisks. So we're going to just search for 3 asterisks. We are going to keep them as asterisks for now. Later, when I style this document, I'm probably going to change that. And then we are going to change it to our scene break. All right, so we're going to click on OK. We're going to change all. And it didn't change anything. Why is that? Well, the asterisk means something with regular expressions. So it's important to know when to use the regular expressions tab to search for things and when not to use it. For this particular one, we need to use the text and just find 3 asterisks and change to, you will see it no longer has the found. So we're just going to say change it to 3 asterisks, and we're going to tell it to assign no character style, and we want it to assign the scene break. So knowing whether to use a text or a grep search is important. Grep is when we're looking for patterns. So certain symbols mean code in grep, and then if you use the text field, it will find what you type in. All right, so here we're going to change all, and it's actually going to find all our scene breaks, and it's going to assign our scene break style to those. Now, the next step is manual, and that's where we're going to assign the first paragraph of each chapter, the first paragraph drop cap. And then I'm going to create a new style that's based on first para drop cap, because I may decide to do the scene breaks the same, the first line after a scene break the same as the first pair drop caps, or I may do them a little differently. So I'm actually going to create a new style that's based on first pair drop cap, and I'm going to call it scene break first. I'm going to call it, let's say, first para scene break. Okay, and I'm going to keep it the style the same for now until I decide how I want to format it. So I'm just going to go through the document, first pair scene break, and you will notice that because this is a quotation mark, it only did the drop cap for the quotation. So we are going to change this. Up in our paragraph menu, we're going to say do the first 2 characters in the drop cap, and then we're going to create a new style and call it first para scene break 2, so we know that this does the drop cap on the first 2 letters. So here, this is going to be first para drop cap, and this will be first para scene break, first para drop cap. And so this is just one of those time-consuming things that you will do, and you can actually do a find and replace. You could look for, we're going to delete that out. You could look for chapter title, do a find next, and then find next. And that way you would be sure not to miss them. And then you can do the same thing with a scene break. Here is a quote. So we know this should get first pair drop cap 2, so it will do those. And I will style these differently once we get to the styling part. First pair drop cap, first pair drop cap, first pair drop cap 2, again, because it has a quotation mark, first pair drop cap. And then what happened here? All right, this should have been set to chapter title, chapter number, but it did not. And 21 did not. What happened? 23 did not. Well, it's because of this hyphen. All right, so certain things we need to think about when we're building our query. So we're going to actually, let me finish assigning all our first pair drop caps, and we'll take a look at these, how we can finish setting the style for those and how you can change it in your grep search. So let's go ahead and do all these. This one gets first pair drop cap 2, first pair drop cap, first pair drop cap 2, first pair drop cap, first pair drop cap, first pair drop cap. And this, when you have a lot of chapters, this can get very monotonous, but once you set it up, it will be done. And I'm going to pause here and continue on so you don't watch me do this. Okay, I'm sorry this may be all messed up because when I recorded this part, I forgot to turn on my headphones. Let me make sure they're on. Yes, they are. So I am going to try to go through what I was doing here. Okay, this is where I was searching for all the scene breaks and setting the first para scene break for that first line after the scene break. So I was just going through these. These are just some quick find and replace, find to help you go through your document faster. And now I think I'm going to address the why we couldn't find the ones with the hyphens before in our grep search. The reason being is that dash in these threw it off. So what we had to do in the search is we actually had to type in chapter, space, and then any kind of wild card for the letter, and then repeat a number of times, one or more times, and then we had the dash, and then we had to do it again, any letter, repeat one or more times, followed by the paragraph mark. And that's how I was able to search for that entire string. So the key to remember when you have some monotonous tasks, such as chapter number, and then names like this, how can you reduce the amount of time it would take if you manually did those one by one? That's the beauty of InDesign's find and replace menu between the text menu as well as the grep search menu. We can really automate these things if we think of patterns and how we can search for those patterns. So that's what I did here, is I found a way to find the chapter number where there is a hyphen. I found the pattern there and I was able to replace them all in one swoop. After playing around with it, it took me a minute, but I got it. And now I'm about to change them all. And so all of those chapters that had the hyphens, 21 through 40 something, were changed in one swoop, which really saves time in the long run. So there we go, changed 25 times. So that's the key thing, remembering those patterns to really save the time of formatting, because there is a lot of manual things that we need to do in formatting, and the more things that we can do to make us efficient, the better. So here I was just searching for Brighton. Apparently we have 3 characters, and we only replaced Olivia and I forgot the other one. But here I'm replacing all of Brighton's. And again, remember to add that paragraph mark at the end so it won't find any Brightons that are just in the text. And so I am changing all of those here. I accidentally, I was on the grep tab, and that's something that you need to pay attention to, is that certain things you want to find using the text tab on the find and replace, and certain things you want to use the grep tab to find it. So I used the grep tab so we could keep the change to, but the paragraph mark is different. So on the text tab, you would search to find a paragraph mark, you would enter $P, but on the grep tab, you would do \R. And that's why you should always use your little drop down menu, the little @ symbol that's on your Find What. It gives you all the code for all the various things. And if you ever want to learn more, especially about regular expressions, any kind of regular expression code should work in your Grep search. So here I am, I'm just going through and assigning the first pair of drop caps again, because in my initial search, I didn't have Brighton set as a chapter title, and so I didn't find these particular first pair of drop caps on the first run. So now I'm just going through those again. And just always remember, if you have a quotation, to always use the first pair of drop cap too. And now I've gotten them all, and let's see what I move on to next. Okay, this is where I do a search for my areas that I mark to format. And so this is going to be the block quote section. And anytime I have an area of the document that I need to pay special attention to, I always enclose it in greater than, less than signs and put format. So here it is. So I'm going to remove those now that I've found it, so I don't leave those in. And then I'm going to format this as a block quote. And what a block quote does is it adds space above and space below. And then it also sets an indent on the left-hand side of a half an inch, and then a 1/4 of an inch on the right-hand side. So the next thing I'm doing is, I know I have some text messages that I need to format. And her text messages were set off by colons. And a lot of authors don't use colons a lot, but this particular reader actually wound up having more than just text messages in colons. So it took me a minute to find them all. But the thing to remember, now that we are at text messages, I actually have some text messages built into the template, and they work the same way as block quote. Whereas if you have a single text message and you want space above and space below, you will assign the text. If you have a string of text, your first text is going to be text 1 followed by text 2. Now, because she had her phrases set in italics, I'm actually going to remove those, because when I do block quotes, when I do text messages, I typically set them in a sans serif, and I typically set the person who is speaking in a bold sans serif. And in this particular template, I actually set it as a semi-condensed, so it's not big blocks of sans serif text. It's just going to be a slightly narrower sans serif text, since it's semi-condensed. But you could always set it to a condensed font as well. Now, in the style for text messages, I have them set to have nested styles. So your text messages need to be in this format where there's a colon. And so when I go to apply it, which we should show you in a minute, I'm actually showing more about the style here. All right, so now I am going to assign text 1, but when I assign it, I'm going to clear the character styles, because I don't care to keep this in italics. Reason being is I want it in my sans serif, and I don't care that it's in, since I'm setting it off as a sans serif, I don't need to keep it in italics. And this is just the way, I mean, the author may come back and say, hey, do you mind setting those in italics? And I'll go back and do them. But as you see, when we get to the formatting step, I may decide to do this a little different. When we get to the design step, I may decide to do it different. So here I am applying text 1, but I'm going to use clear character styles. So I want you to pay attention to what that does. Now ignore the yellow because I'm actually updating the style to make that go away. The yellow just means that this particular line isn't conforming to our hyphenation and justification settings. You may not see any yellow, and here I'm going through the step of how to show yellow in case you are concerned about those areas that are not conforming to the proper definition. So to turn on your yellow, you would go to File, Edit, Preferences, and then you would turn on H&J violations. And that'll show the yellow. And we'll get into this later, but in some cases you might want to pay attention to those. But for this text message, I'm actually going to left align these instead of left justify. So I'm not going to break the hyphenation rules. I'm sorry, the justification rules that I have set up. And now I'm just going to go through each of the next lines. I was just modifying some style here that we don't need to worry about. Then I'm going to go through the next lines and assign text 2. So this next line is going to be text 2. And then, because we want a line of separation between the text message and where the text starts again, the actual chapter text, we're going to assign the next line chapter text. And as you see, Brighton and Olivia are bold, and that's just the nested style I have built into the text style. So here I am setting the next line to chapter text space above, and then I'm going to set this one to text 1, and then all of these are going to be set to text 2. And I'm clearing the paragraph, the character styles as I do it, so the italics will go away. And then this next line will be assigned chapter text space above to give that separation between the text messages and the text. Now I am just going through and looking at all of the colons to make sure I do not have any more text messages within the document, which I don't. And then that's done. And then let's see what I do next. Okay, here I'm just styling. We're still in the main text frame. This is the very end of the document where she has a message about the next book. She has, it says to flip the page to read the prologue for the next book, and so I'm just formatting this section here, and this all depends on what your author has. This is the book title for the prologue, so I'm just setting that to book title, so my headers change. I'm setting prologue to chapter text, and then I already had Olivia set. Then I'm going to come down here and just style the very end where it says click here to pre-order, and then style this line as well. And what I'm saying here is that I don't have a link here, and so sometimes authors forget that this is a paperback. And so they just give you wording for the ebook and they want you to set it up as a link. But for the paperback, we actually need the text because it's not clickable. So I am going to highlight this word, and we'll need to tweak this in the next version, but I'll get the URL from the author to include. And here this was already set up as a URL, but since this is a print book, I'm actually copying the URL. So you can find what the URL is by going to the hyperlinks menu, and it should, if it's a blue link like this, it'll show what the URL is pointing to. And so what I did is I am just pasting that URL onto a line. I'm styling it with centered space above, and I'm pasting it. So you'll see it. And then what I'm going to do is I typically just swap off the HTTPS to the www. That's just really not needed, and it kind of clutters up stuff. And so I typically will cut those off. And then what I will do is I will remove the character style, the hyperlink character style to this text, because I don't want it underlined. Underlined muddies text, and so we want to remove that, and then the blue will print gray, and we want it to print black. So I remove the hyperlink character style, but that does not remove the link. So when I go to create the ebook, that link will still be there, and in the ebook that will be blue and underlined because it will be a hyperlink. I just don't need it set as a hyperlink character style. So here I'm just mentioning that this says click here to order, and that I need to add a link, but I need to get the link from the author. So I'm just putting a note here, need URL for print book. And if I have a note for the author like that, I will shade it this cyan color. Now this will actually show up in the PDF, whereas the other override cyan does not, but this will. And so I put that there just so the author can hopefully notice that, and oftentimes I will try to leave a message in the email to the author to let them know that there's a message in there for them.